Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Uprooted and Replanted. We are back for episode 3. A couple weeks overdue with episode 3. Y'all, life has just been lifing. I've just been super duper busy with school, work, life. We are back, and as you guys can see, I have a new hairdo. I've been stepping back into my wig era just because the pixie is so much maintenance, and sometimes it's just nice to switch up the look, you know what I'm saying? But let's get into it. I don't want this to be a super long video. As you guys can tell from the title, the topic of today's episode is faith, fertility, and fibroids. As you guys know, I did share last summer, I was actually hospitalized because I was bleeding in my car, vaginally. This is a safe space. If it is TMI, you can always click off. And I was literally driving like state to state as this was happening. So had stopped in Maryland, basically ended up going to the ER. Thankfully, one of my really close friends lives out there, so she was able to come meet me and go with me to the hospital. What we found out was I had 3 fibroids, and at that time, one of them was degenerating or breaking down inside of me, causing me to bleed out. Fibroids are benign tumors that grow in and around the uterus. They don't necessarily pose a threat to most women, but for some girls like me, they do become bothersome. I had been on birth control for years. I've been on birth control for over a decade now, and one of the primary reasons that I had started birth control was for painful cycles, and further down the line finding out that I had fibroids that were probably the cause of these painful cycles. So I had stayed on birth control for forever, and last summer I just decided to come off. I guess I just wanted to detox my body because, like I said, I've been on it for forever. And then shit just hit the fan. I started bleeding like 2 weeks after I started the birth control. I really do think those two are correlated, but you never know. After that situation, I was released from the hospital. Over time, the bleeding did stop, and you know, I just continued on with my regular life. I had followed up with an OBGYN while I was living in Atlanta, and he basically told me, you know, continue on with the birth control and just see if it helped. But he was like, you know, he doesn't recommend surgery at this time. Never really gave a reason at that point, but he was just like, you know, let's just try to do the least invasive thing that we can do. And you know, I was kind of confused about it because it's like, okay, well, birth control clearly wasn't really doing much, but okay, whatever. I just continued living my life, and really and truly, I think after that I kind of was like okay for a couple months, and then I moved to New York, and you know, it was time for me to find an OBGYN out here. So I ended up going to a GYN, and she basically you know, we went over my health history, all that good stuff, and of course the concern for fibroids came back because my periods had started to get worse again. They were heavy, I was in debilitating pain, and they were so heavy to the point of like, literally I would be like bleeding through my clothes like every single day. And it was just like, I can't, and the job that I do, like I can't just be in the middle of seeing patients and I'm just like bleeding through my clothes. Like, it just got to the point where I was like, something has got to give. And so that's why I ended up going to see her and scheduling an appointment. And so based on all of that, she recommended me to go get an ultrasound, did the transvaginal, which is internal, and the you know, a regular abdominal ultrasound, which is, you know, on the abdomen, on outside. So based on the results of those, we found out that I now had 6 fibroids, which last summer when that whole incident happened, I only had 3. So my fibroids have now doubled, and that was the reason behind all of the pain, the bleeding, the this, the that. So I was pretty hysterical, honestly, when she told me I had 6 fibroids, because honestly, it's been a battle with the fibroids. I've really been trying, I've been researching, I've been looking up all these methods. People send me things all the time, but I just feel like nothing really has worked for me. And it's concerning. You know, I am 27 years old, soon to be 28. And I do think about, you know, the day that I will decide, okay, I'm ready to start having a baby. You know, will these fibroids give me issues? Will these fibroids be, you know, a problem for the pregnancy? Like, what is going to happen down the line? Anyways, the GYN there, based on the findings, she did tell me that my largest fibroid is maybe like a little over 6 centimeters in diameter, which I know that probably verbally sounds small, but a 6 centimeter fibroid is probably the size of a medium-sized grapefruit, so probably about this big. Do y'all see my eyes? So if you literally take this and you put it on my little baby uterus, it's a generous size. I'm a pretty slim girl, my uterus is not humongous, so that is why it is causing me so much discomfort. On top of that, the location of my largest fibroid is literally seated at the front of my uterus, where I would, you know, in the future carry a baby. So all of these questions start to come up about fertility, about future pregnancies and what that's gonna look like. And of course, nobody really necessarily has the answers because you never know what can happen. There has been success stories. I have friends who have had fibroids or have fibroids, and they've been able to conceive, you know, and then I know other people who the fibroids have been making it harder for them to conceive, and also harder for them to maintain the pregnancy even if they do conceive. My doctor did mention, you know, just thinking about miscarriage, intrauterine growth restriction, which is when a baby pretty much cannot grow anymore because there is no more room. It was just like all these things, and she was on premature birth. Like there's so many risk factors associated with, you know, my fibroid and where it is, at least the biggest one. The other ones are in other locations and don't necessarily pose a threat, but basically she was just saying that she's worried about that one. All this information, it's overwhelming. Like I said, I'm young and I do often think about my fertility because, y'all, I want to be a mommy. Like that's a given. And if you know me and you know me well, you know that I always talk about, you know, becoming a mom one day. Like I'm so excited for that chapter of my life. Like I'm definitely ready to see like mom area, like that's gonna be an era for sure. Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's difficult when you're hearing news like that and don't really know what's gonna come from it. She basically referred me out to a fibroid specialist, OBGYN. So he ended up telling me pretty much the same thing that the first doctor in Atlanta had told me, which was he doesn't recommend surgery at this time. But this time he actually gave me a reason. And so he basically said that I am 27 years old. I am producing the most estrogen that I will produce in my lifespan. And so estrogen is what feeds fibroids. It makes them grow. Because I am producing the most estrogen that I probably will ever produce in my lifespan, if we go in and remove these fibroids, the probability of them growing back within a year is extremely high. I had 3 fibroids. Not even a full year later, I had 6. So he was like, yeah, the regrowth rate for you because of your age, you know, because of where you are in terms of being fertile, whatever the case is very, very high. So he told me, he was like, you know, I would recommend that you don't do surgery right away. Wait until you know for sure that you're coming up on the time when you are ready to have a baby. And so I'm like, sir, like, I don't know when that's gonna happen. I mean, that could be years from now. And he said he would just recommend me waiting. And then you think about waiting and all these things, and it's like the older that you get, fertility decreases, risks of complications increase. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Black woman, so our risks for everything is already increased. So it was just a lot to think about, and it still has been a lot to think about. Ultimately, to make a long story short, I ended up saying, okay, I'll wait on the surgery. And he did put me on 2 medications. I'm taking letrozole 2.5 milligrams and norethindrone 5 milligrams. So he put me on these 2 medications, and so the purpose was the letrozole that suppresses my estrogen production. Norethindrone, I mean, it's essentially like birth control. Both of these together are stopping my periods and suppressing estrogen production. So ultimately helping me with not having periods every month that were causing crazy symptoms, and then suppressing the estrogen, which is ultimately suppressing the growth of the fibroids. So we decided to opt for that as of right now. The only thing about this is just a temporary fix. So when I decide to come off of these medications, everything is gonna go right back to how it was. That's why he was like, you know, you can stay on these for as long as you possibly want to. It doesn't really have any long-term effect. I will say I do take a calcium pill just because I believe it's I think it's the norethindrone. If not, I'll put the correction on the screen. But I believe I'm right in saying that one of them can lead to like calcium calcium deficiency, which can cause, you know, bone issues. So I do take a calcium supplement along with these medications just to make sure I'm good in terms of calcium. So yes, so that's pretty much what we're doing right now. So, you know, I've gotten several different opinions, you know, from women, men, and yeah, so general consensus is no surgery right now. When I am, you know, I meet my partner and we decide that we are ready to expand our family, then I will definitely do the surgery. And then he said, you know, do the surgery and then try to get pregnant. You know, it usually takes you about 6 to 8 months after a myomectomy to heal from that procedure. So he said about after that time, go get pregnant. And, you know, so the fibroids, you know what I'm saying, you can basically beat them before they grow back, and then it makes everything so complicated. I've been meeting with the fibroid specialist pretty frequently. I've seen him a couple times in the past few months. He's definitely concerned. He does think that my uterus is pretty distended for somebody my size. He mentioned to me that my uterus is as distended and stretched out as somebody who's 13 weeks pregnant. And that is mind-blowing to me. So that kind of explains the higher stomach that I've had, you know, in the past few months, which I absolutely hate. But, you know, it's not all my fault. You know what I'm saying? It's not all me just eating crazy. It's the fibroids as well. You know, it's not the end of the world. Fibroids are super common, especially amongst Black women. We do suffer from them in disproportionate rates compared to our counterparts. And it's unfortunate, but like I said, for a lot of women, fibroids don't even really bother them. But there's always a percentage of us that do suffer because of them, and I'm included in that. So this is what I have to do in order to take care of myself and my reproductive health. Just happy that I'm on top of things and really just asking all the questions, getting all the answers that I need now, because, you know, I'm getting up there in age. So it's important to have these conversations to know, you know, what's gonna happen as far as the future. I've leaned so much on God during this process. Doctors are great, and thank God for them and what they do and the incredible work that they do. But God has the final say. God has the final report. And so I'm trusting in God that these fibroids will not be a factor in preventing me from getting pregnant, preventing me from carrying a pregnancy. And I know that God will continue to bless my womb, and He will bless my womb one day, and I will be able to carry a child and several children. I was super duper worried. Like I said, it's been an overwhelming amount of information that's been spewed at me over the past year concerning the fibroids, but I am full of faith, and I know that God will deliver on His promises of me being a mom one day, so, and to a healthy baby. So I just wanted to give an update. I wanted to let you guys know where I've been at the past 2 weeks, and, you know, definitely give an update on the fibroids, because I have actually had a few girls reach out to me like, hey, did you ever, you guys are so sweet. Like, it's just crazy how people like care about stuff and remember things that people that they barely know have gone through. But you never know how something that you're going through can be helpful to another woman, another girl. So for anyone suffering with fibroids, please know that you're not alone. This is an issue that affects so many women across the globe, and like I said, there are options. So don't, you know, fit yourself into a box. I didn't even know that there was medications that I can take to at least kind of, you know, like I didn't know that that was an option. And I found an option. Yes, it is a temporary fix, but to be honest, so is the surgery. Like, there's always a risk that your fibroids can grow back. So, you know, nothing is truly permanent. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's a little different from what I've been doing so far, but I figured, listen, this series, we're talking about all things, okay? And this is under the bracket of healing. You know, you can't just heal your mental and your emotional. You gotta heal the physical as well. So it has been great talking to you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode, and I hope you guys have a blessed remainder of your week. And happy October, it's a new month. So let's make it a good one. See you next time. Bye.